Stephen.
Hello. I was just going to start off by telling you that when the Apollo 11 landed on the moon, I was a senior in college, and a number of individuals, about 100 as a matter of fact, gathered in a TV lounge to witness the landing live. And in those years, there was a significant number of college students that expected that we would be on the moon within a decade in a big way. And of course, that community of students, of which I'm one of, was greatly disappointed when the Apollo program was terminated early. And for the last 50 years, I've been working in aerospace, hoping to get involved in space activities. So I ended up working for quite a while at an aerospace company that made jet engines and rocket engines. You may be familiar with Pratt & Whitney. And so that's where I tried to live out my dream of space and aerospace. But without any further ado, I guess I'd also like to say that I'm the Space Ambassador Program Director, and at the last ISDC, I gave a presentation concerning the efforts to expand the Space Ambassador Program. And so I have a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation that I can run through very quickly to give you some familiarity with how to become a Space Ambassador to help spread the enthusiastic news of our new Space 2.0 era that's coming online. So what I'll do is I will share my presentation slides, and I think what will happen is I end up having to go offline a little bit here, but you can still hear me, I think. So I'll start sharing, and I will pull up my PowerPoint here. And I'm going to do a full screen share of this, assuming I can get to it. No, wrong one.
Well, I see the mouse moving around there.
Yes. And so here we go. There's the slide presentation. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So this is an abridged version of the presentation I gave at the ISDC this year. It turns out that I've given the names of some of our subcommittee members, Loretta Hall and Jim Plaxco. Some of you may recognize Jim as someone who's been very active at the NSS. Now it turns out that I don't want to do that. Okay, I'm having some issues here with my pointer. Okay, so it turns out that the National Space Society web page, which you see on your screen now, if you go to the National Space Society web page, there's a menu drop down that says what we do. Space Ambassadors is listed as one of the activities on that web page. And so if you're interested in becoming a Space Ambassador and giving presentations to other groups of individuals, you can become one of our members here. And we actually have several individuals that will coach other inexperienced people to make good presentations to audiences. It turns out that if you go to that site on the web page, we give an explanation of what has happened over the years for the Space Ambassador Program. And we also give you an opportunity to ask questions and get involved. And one of the last questions that's on the web page says, how can I become a space ambassador? And that actually starts the application process. And we actively pursue individuals who express an interest in becoming a space ambassador and help them to give presentations and inform the general public. So that gives you just a quick intro to the Space Ambassador program of the NSS. You see at the top of the page a URL link, spacenss.org, and then space-ambassador. That's how you get right to us. And so anybody in the chapters that is interested in giving presentations and being a space ambassador, I encourage you to go to the webpage and fill out the application and get in touch with us and get involved. And it turns out that one of the things I wanted to point out, some individuals have said, well, it's a space ambassador 8 years ago, and that was the Space Ambassador Phase 1 program, which was concluded, and there were 5 finalists who ended up getting major awards for their participation in the Phase 1 program, and some of those finalists are involved now in the Phase 2 and helping us to advance the Phase 2 program. There was a white paper that was created and submitted to the board of directors concerning what was learned from the Phase 1 program and made recommendations for how the second phase of the program would be run. And just to hit on a couple of highlights here, it turns out that there is a subcommittee. I showed some of the members' names earlier on the first slide, but NSS membership is a requirement. There are 2 other documents that deal with the code of conduct, or the rules, if you will, and some presentation rules to provide some direction and control on the presentations. But there are also example presentations that have been given by a number of space ambassadors over the years, and those presentations are also available on the web page should anyone wish to identify a subject that they want to talk to, or if they want to see what the presentations are like. So that basically concludes the presentation that I wanted to put up and talk to. And this slide, in this particular case, talks about some of the presentations that are available on our webpage as examples. And I'll call your attention to a couple of them. It turns out that Al Globus is one of our space ambassadors. And Al is considered a subject matter expert on space settlement, and his recent book, The High Frontier, An Easier Way, was used as a reference for a presentation that both Al and I have given on several occasions. So that's just one example of some of the presentation material that's available. There are a lot of others available. And if it turns out that someone has a subject that they don't see an example presentation for, we can help draw in reference material and help a space ambassador put together a presentation of basically any subject that is of interest to the general public. So that's basically the end of my presentation, and I will field any questions as necessary here to help get the ball rolling. Let's see if I can get out of here and get back to the full screen.
That's good. We're also getting back to the point where we're almost caught up on our schedule. So this is good, guys, so far. So go ahead and type any questions. If you don't know how to ask a question as a participant, as an attendee, you can go to the bottom of your screen, assuming that you did not use a phone, but you're on by computer, hit the little button called Q&A, and you can type in a question which will then appear in a panel that we can see. Right at this minute, there's no questions from them. Are there any questions from any of the panelists? They just have to turn their mic on and they can ask a question.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So I was at an event all day yesterday at the St. Louis Science Center, and we were sitting across the table of JPL space ambassadors. Are you coordinating with them or working with them or familiar with what
very good question. It turns out that the JPL space ambassadors is a separate activity from the NSS. However, several of our space ambassadors for the NSS are also JPL space ambassadors. The two programs are run a bit differently. The JPL Space Ambassador program tends to focus on the robotic exercises of exploration for NASA. The National Space Society tends to focus on space settlement, the human space settlement side of the story. But yes, some of our space ambassadors are dual ambassadors, and we're quite happy to say that we welcome any of the JPL ambassadors to participate with us. The phase 2 program is still relatively early and we're still growing. So that's an opportunity for growth in the future.
Hi, it's Christine. Can you all hear me?
Hi, Christine. Yes, I can hear you.
I don't have my video on, but that's okay. So just as a little clarification, NASA JPL calls their program Solar System Ambassador rather than Space Ambassador. And the little short is SSA. So if you see SSA, that's referring to the NASA JPL Solar System Ambassador. The program does focus also on human spaceflight. Right now, most of our training is about Artemis. One of the really great things about being a NASA JPL Solar System Ambassador is the training that you get from NASA so that you can go out and talk about NASA missions. I have been really careful not to mix NASA and National Space Society when I'm doing outreach and presentations because you know, NASA, we're supposed to talk about NASA missions with NASA information. And also there has been some times the National Space Society has been very critical of NASA programs. And so I've actually tried to keep the two separated. So I don't know if anybody wants to comment on that part.
Right, Christine.
Okay, now we have another question, and so we're going to run out of time here really quick. So Brian Solenzo has a question. I heard it said there is very little return on investment for public space education. Who is the audience for National Space Society Space Ambassadors?
I guess I would say, yeah, we're still growing, and we do not have much of a budget just now. So the ability to talk to return on investment is difficult, but a lot of us are volunteers, and we push to try and get the information and the enthusiastic message out to the general public. But it is a volunteer operation, so the ability to talk to return on investment is difficult right now.
I don't know, is that true that there's very little public return on space investment? Certainly that wasn't true during the Apollo era when, you know, Apollo created a whole generation of kids that got charged up about space and technology, and went into the science, to the STEM areas. But your focus is the public and kids, I would imagine.
Yes, general public, and if it turns out several of our presentations are aimed at the students, the junior high and high school students.